Do it.
It's almost time. Hello, hello, hello again. This one I'm bringing to you pre-recorded. Um, Talking about status. Unfortunately, my little one is sick, so having to take care of her. Hopefully, I think I might be getting a little bit of it too, so please bear with me. But status. Now, a well-known group once said, cash rule everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, y'all. The economy works on money, but we as individuals, the society, how you think, how I think, how groups of people think, how we socialize. The economy runs on money, but the society actually runs on status. There are some links to some articles where they talk about how people actually value status over money, meaning if I can be the president of the United States and only get $400,000 a year, which is still quite a bit of money, or I could be not known by anybody at all and be a billionaire. Given what those studies showed, given what we know about people, um, people will tend to want to be the president because they know coming with that, when you say I'm a former president or something like that, the status that comes with that in its own right will give you a certain amount of power just because people know who you are and what you're that accolade. It adds to your value. And I actually do believe the salary of the president is it's about 400,000. It might have changed. It might have gone up by now because of inflation. I'm not sure, but it is around that much. But I myself, I choose to be the billionaire because, to be honest, if I know what I'm doing, if I wanted to, I could work my way into becoming president, like a certain orange individual. Or I can do what I really want to do, which is similar to what I see Elon Musk and those guys doing. I'm not giving them a shout out because I admire them or something. No, I would like to be able to hire people to do a lot of studies and build a bunch of stuff. That's what I actually would like to do. I just have to get the resources to do so or the necessary backing to do so, one or the other. Because remember, we run off of status over money to some extent. So, as always, there are going to be some clips played here, and I do have some uh, links in the description. Go check out the links in the description. And, well, I think it's time for us to go ahead and jump right into it. So, here we go. This is the crossover. Friday night crossover at that.
Put some respect on my name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
All right, so what am I getting at with this status? Where does this fit into uh, the cash system that I'm talking about? Um, how is this used? Well, within that cash system, I talk about the elite. I talk about how that elite group, um, due to, of course, a series of cheating and barbarism, we are under the system of white supremacy. and they pick and choose who they want to, in a way, deceive the masses. Because I talk about how usually there's going to be an uprising. Actually, I do have some clips on that as to why that is. But at the same time, I talk about the common uses of the cash, which is these four things that I see very commonly used, and the system we're in today, of course, they learned from prior situations. They've learned how to use these effectively to where they keep the masses at bay. Um, however, there's going to be some inconsistencies. It's not perfect per se. There are going to be some cracks here and there, but they're very useful. Conflict, amusement, status, and hope. So today, the one of the cash systems we're going to refer to today is going to be status. Now, I did mention how each of these works together, and you can combine the two as I did with the conflict and amusement prior to this, and how they are used in unison with one another to compound their effectiveness. And this is critical because you can't just use one or the other. It is best used when you utilize all of them. These are the main ones that I've seen. So they're of course, but even when you combine the two, usually they lead kind of like the color wheel. You know, you can combine the colors of the color wheel to make the tertiary and secondary colors and all that stuff. Just from those three primary colors, and then you make the oranges and the greens and the blues and yellow and red. It leads to all the different colors. Well, that's similar to how these four are used. So think of them, even though there's four of them, think of them as the three uh, primary colors. Okay? Poor little baby. Hopefully you don't hear too much of the little one back there. But yeah, so status. Now, status can be an accolade, an achievement, an award. It is something someone uses. I want to say much like let me see here, much like an adjective is used in a sentence to kind of like add additional meaning to a noun or something like that, right? Or to modify something for the better. Um, you win an award, like actors and actresses when they win an award, one of those either if they're on TV or movies where there's not a Grammy, sorry, that's music, but also Grammys too. But all of those in the entertainment industry, whether you're a musician or whatever, so whether you win an Oscar or Emmy or a Grammy, your value goes up because you win that award, or even if you're sometimes even if you're considered for that award, like they'll say Grammy nominated, Emmy nominated actress or actor. You see, and that's actually added into the contract so that it gives them reason to make more money. In the system of white supremacy, this is actually used effectively because these awards have historically, overseen black actors, actresses, and musicians through perpetuity. I mean, even up to today. And because of that, it gives reasons for some of these record labels to be like, okay, I'm paying this artist or actor or actress way more than you because they have this accolade or this additional award, even though you know that all the people that vote for that award are white, and you know that they don't value whatever it is you do if you're a non-white individual. And that's how status can be used. I touched on how status is actually used by the elite white for the poor white. Now there is classism, but within that classism, there's this thing we refer to as racism. If you don't know this, I mean, where have you been? Unless you're white. I mean, white people just live in a bubble. Yeah, that's actually, it's actually a benefit if you just forget, that whole "I don't see color" thing. That's a tactic, yeah, used by white supremacy once again to try to, hey, don't think about it. It doesn't exist. It does exist. But how is the status how does this relate to what the system is, and how are the elite using it to control the masses? Well, the elite, say the elite white, they're on top of all the other whites. Remember, I think it's something like the top 1% controls like 40% of the wealth in the world, right? So they control a considerable, it's 40 to 60%. I forget which one it is, but it's either flip flop. But either way, 1%, that for 1% of the population, that is enormous amount of wealth um, for those individuals because there's so few. And because of that, they have so much control over everything. And now we're seeing in America where people are, I mean, I don't know why it took them so long to allude to it, but they're talking about, the potential monopolies of the Walmarts and the potential monopolies of Amazon and stuff like this, because these companies like Google, they're growing so big that no other company can really compete against them because, to be honest, they just buy them. I think Google, like, I used to have Google Play Music, and Google freaking bought YouTube. Now they've transitioned and merged the two. Now it's YouTube is Google, and YouTube Music is now what I have to use to play my music. Because they just keep buying up everything and accumulating everything, and then eventually, when you have too much control under one company, one thing, one individual, that's usually when they get some yes men behind them because people are afraid to say no to them, and they're able to do whatever it is they want to do because no one's gonna stop them. Now, the elite white, they've learned from prior situations where, you remember how I talk about this is all to keep the uprising from happening and to keep them in power and all their ancestry in power without any real um, threat or danger to themselves and what they have. And they keep the masses fighting amongst each other, keep them from uniting against them, from realizing the trick bag that they're being put into, that all of them are essentially slaves to them because they're all just working, and the ones that are really benefit are like the top 10 to 1% are the only ones that are really benefiting from anything because they don't have to work significantly as hard as those at the bottom, and they have a certain amount of wealth to where their money literally just makes more money with with less much less effort. I'm not going to say no effort, but in some cases actually yes, it could be no effort because some of these individuals, they have so much money they literally can't spend it in one lifetime. But it can lead to that, to where they literally don't have to do anything. They just live their lives because they've been set up so well. Now, they do this because they have to keep the masses from unifying from a potential uprising. Because remember, the masses technically, there is this false freedom that we see today where, yes, you could, and this relates to the hope, yes, you could, be successful here in America. That's the whole American dream concept. I'm going to talk about that later, but I'm trying to stick with status. So, because they're elite, they want to keep their status, but at the same time, a good deal of them actually, I've heard that there's actually a lot of wealthy individuals, even wealthier than the Bill Gates and the Jeff Bezos of the world. Those are just the ones we know about because some of the people that you can hide your assets very effectively to where like they're really, I'm talking about the real elite, and they don't necessarily want to be known because they don't need to be. They said, "Fuck the status. I'll take I got all this wealth. I'm just using this. I'm using the concept of status so you other people can fight over that over amongst yourselves and not even realize the real people that are at the top." So if you're fighting amongst yourself consistently, you're not trying to actually get better because remember, in today's society, it's status over money. A good example of this is the faking culture that people do when it comes to Instagram. And some people will try to say this thing where, oh, it's this technology that's leading the de-evolution or the degeneracy in society. And I'm what I'm trying to tell you is much like police, the uprise in the videos and police brutality. It's not that it hasn't been that way for a while, it's just that we're seeing more of it. So this is the way society has been for some time, and this is how society has been raised. So it's like it's a combination of the two. Um, so now we're seeing more of the outcome of the prior generations and what they've raised. And one of those things is the fact that it is significantly harder today to try to accumulate a significant amount of wealth as those that came before us, which pretty much guarantees those that got ahead early on, they're unless you're a complete dumbass, you're pretty much set for life. Like if you inherit a significant amount of wealth accumulated by your ancestors, you're pretty much set for life unless you're a complete dumbass. Um, so that being said, sorry, I was looking at something. But that being said, the system is somewhat rigged, and now people are kind of they've chosen to value the status thing over actually getting out here and competing against these companies and earning, actually doing the harder work, because mind you, it's harder today to earn the same dollar as it was back then. Because there's much more people, much more competition, and also you also have to compete against people that are already set up, like the Googles and the Apples of the world, right? So good luck trying to compete with them, because they'll just buy you out or just steal your shit, and you know they have their ways of doing things. So people today on Instagram and stuff like that, they've accepted the just whole, some people refer to it as fake it till you make it, but to be honest, I think it's just fake it and look like you make it, because I don't even think some of them are really trying to even I don't even think some of them are really trying. They're just trying to scam. They're trying to get out here and get what they can and look a certain way. And then once the ride's over, that's when people disappear. That's why sometimes you might think like, one of your, the people you used to see online, or a prior rapper or something, and you're like, oh, I wonder what happened to that guy. Yeah, well, he had his moment, and then once things was no longer going, then he just disappeared or she disappeared. And so they faked it and got what they could out of it, and then they moved on. Some of them in the I'm just gonna say a good deal of them end up broke and bummy. But I got some clips, and this first clip, it explains, it relates to the whole concept of how this relates to the society we're in, and when it comes to racism and how status plays a role in that, because it is a tool, and it is a very effective tool. And this first clip from TBA, so shout out TBA. Check the link in the description.
That's smart marketing. Racism is a product. It has to be packaged and marketed. The reason why Joseph Goebbels was a master communicator was because he gave the majority white population of Germany something to focus their attention towards. It didn't matter that the Jewish population was so small as to be insignificant. It gave them something to focus their hatred and their energies at. It gave them something to rally around. Fantastic marketing is for marketing purposes.
So in that clip, we it kind of course there's two other that follow up with that, but it talks about how the racism back during the Nazi period, when Hitler was coming into power, and this relates to society as a whole as well, because there is group psychology, and once you're able to sway a certain group of people, it makes it easier for people. It's like reaching critical mass. Once you reach a certain amount, it's like that everything else kind of topples in your favor. You know, imagine that snowball rolling down a snowy mountain, and then it builds up into a boulder. Well, the bigger it is, the more mass, the more surface area it has, and then therefore the more and more snow it accumulates, and it accumulates even faster and much more. So with group psychology, the more people you have on board with something, the easier it is to sway other people to come aboard with you. And one of the easiest ways to motivate someone is actually fear. So, and that's why you see a lot of stuff in the media where we're invoking fear. They did that very well during 2020. Oh, this disease, and stay in your house, oh my God, it'll have you bleeding out of all your orifices and stuff, and then your kidneys will blow up, and they don't have to tell, they don't have to be true, but a lot of they can just allude to some of the potential side effects or whatever, because they want you in a state of fear, because they know that you'll take action when you're in a state of fear. It's a strong motivator. Fear of being poor, fear of being stupid, you know, fear of being taken advantage of. Still gotta do that rewind on that one. It's coming up. But that fear is a strong motivator. Fear of losing, you know. So, and one of the things they can do with that fear is they mold or morph, and this is what we're seeing today in today's society. This is why in this period of time, the fear is around black men specifically, black people in general, but black men specifically, because we're considered the warrior class. We are the ones that will topple white supremacy. Therefore, we're the ones being demonized at this period in time. Back then, of course, we were still there, but over in Germany, they utilized the Jews, even though they were significantly smaller population, but they did have some wealth to them, and they were seen as the target or the focus to get things done. It's easy to get people motivated when you have fear and then you give them a definitive uh enemy. We good, they bad, pretty much. And he talked about how it's marketing. Yeah, it's a tool. They market it out there to the masses in order to get people to do things. Like I said, they want to keep you in that mindset that there's this constant enemy, and you have to fight the enemy, even though the elite, you remember the whole point of this, even though one's at the top, they're absolutely getting over on you. I have a I actually got a story about that, which I'm gonna tell right now. So imagine I'm in a store, and this is a true story. So I'm just gonna abbreviate it, but I was in a store, forgot which store it was, but actually it was a Walmart, and it was late night. I'm in the store, not too many customers around, and I used to actually work in a retail store. And one of the things we used to do for loss prevention is, if the manager tells you to go to an aisle to kind of keep an eye on a certain individual, you'll go to the aisle and you'll look like you're working or you're stocking a shelf. You'll kind of look, you know, normal. But in reality, the reason why you're there is you're there to keep an eye on the person. Now, this actually happens to me commonly. I actually laugh about it, because I think it's interesting how when I walk into certain stores, all of a sudden, there's always a person to come in the aisle. Sometimes they'll approach you and be like, "Can I help you, sir?" or that kind of thing. And some people, they don't even realize it, but because I'm so sensitive to things, I'm an observer, I observe things. I noticed that when I walk in the store, there was someone behind the cash register, and then all of a sudden I see them in the aisle next to me, minutes later. And then I'm like, okay, you go from behind the cash register to in the aisle that I'm in, tight, like not even really stocking the shelves, but like straightening things up on the shelf just randomly. Okay. Oh, okay. I see what this is. Now, I was in a Walmart, and there was they were doing that. Wherever I went, there was somebody there straightening up the shelves. And then I look, now I kind of was laughing, and then I noticed there was a woman, a white woman. She was over there in the women's section or something, like, the racks with the clothes. And I looked at her, and then I noticed it looked like I saw her tucked something up under her shirt, and I was like, "What the hell?" So you know how you kind of see something out in your peripherals, and you kind of just sit there and you're like, "Hmm." So I'm kind of doing what I'm doing, and then I'm kind of looking at her like, because I'm like, did I see what I just saw? And then she also had a big bag with her, which telltale sign of somebody who's shoplifting. So she had tucked something under her shirt, and then on top of that, I saw her like real swiftly, and she thought she was slick. She snatched some stuff off the racks and then tucked them down in her bag. And then while she was tucking it down in her bag, you know, how they look around. She looked around, and then she caught eyes with me, and we locked eyes for a good 2 seconds, right? Because I'm like, okay, I am literally witnessing this woman shoplifting in a Walmart. And then she kinda, like, giggles, and then you know, she prances off. All the while, this fucking store person and I kinda looked at the store person, and they kinda you know how something you can tell somebody's looking at you. So I kinda look at the store person, and they kinda quickly look like they were working again. Because remember, they were only there to keep an eye on me, right? Because it was late night, you know, it was like this was when Walmart was, before the pandemic, Walmart was still 24/7 in the area I was. And I noticed the store person, you know, they were still there watching me, keeping tabs on me, all the while this white woman was over there robbing them blind. And I'm just like, wow, the irony, the irony of that situation. They wanted to keep tabs on me because they thought I was going to steal something, all the while they had that white woman over there robbing them blind. And this is what the leader's essentially doing. They're trying to keep the store people that work for them. Hey, watch that Negro over there. All the while they're picking their pockets. That's literally that was literally the irony I got. That's why, you know, some from time to time, forgive me when I laugh at stuff because I find it facetious, not because I think it's funny. Um, it's more so because I see the irony in the situation, and then that's what I'm laughing at. Okay, so let's start with the next clip.
Judge Joe Brown in our documentary Race War. If you hadn't seen Race War, brother, I'm glad you contributed, but if you hadn't seen it, you missed a lot, because in Race War, he talked about this, where Conrad Lorenz, a Jewish psychologist, had talked about how in Eastern Europe, in European countries, they make scapegoats of foreigners. In America, they make scapegoats of black people. And that the reason for that is because with black people, you have a readily identifiable scapegoat.
So essentially, way back in the day, slavery, you know, was a normal thing. But chattel slavery evolved. Um, to be honest, I believe it was actually the Catholic Church, the Vatican, and they utilized when they were seeing black people, and they were aware of the dominance of black people, of black society, black um history, our ability to build our religion. You know, shout out to Jesus, the white made up one that they've created, and the one that he's based off of. I believe his story comes from Heru of Egypt. But essentially they saw black people as better slaves, not because, you know, we were stupid or something like that, but because we were black. We're easy to identify. It's easy to identify us because, you know, if I wanted to if I'm German and I want to enslave a British person, or if I'm British and I want to enslave an Irish person, it's, you know, aside from their um the language they speak and or the religion they might practice, which mind you, you can always, you know, just not practice your religion to fit in. And aside from their accent, it's hard to straight up identify them as what they are, because they, you know, if you're white, you're white. If you're black, you're black. Yeah, you might have some slightly different phenotypes, but to be honest, you know, if I'm looking at you down the street, I can't tell if you're, you know, if you're a European white person or if you're an American white person. And when I say European, I'm talking about from Europe. You know, I'm not talking about, you know, I know Caucasians come from there, but I'm just saying in reference. You know, I can't tell if you're from you know, Portugal or South Africa. I can't. If you're white, you're white until I come question you, or I see what you speak a certain language or something. Then there's a telltale. But if you're black, you're black. So essentially, if I'm gonna enslave someone, I'm gonna try to enslave someone where it's just obvious, it's blatantly obvious that, oh yeah, you're somebody's slave because you're black, even though there were, like the Moors, um, from Morocco, whatever. There were wealthy black people as well that weren't technically supposed to be slaves, even though some of them ended up as slaves anyway because they were black. You're easy to ID. You're easy to identify. Like this next clip.
You can readily identify black people from 2 blocks away. So do you realize how easy it is to get a group of people to unite against you?
So it's easy. Remember how I said you have to give people a fear or motivation. So we've already seen how they demonize black people, black men, especially black men, because we're the warrior class. They literally want to eradicate us. Black women, they're like, yeah, y'all do you. Here's some government benefits. Go sit in that little hut over there. Chill out. We'll come. Some of y'all be bad witches and whatnot. Because y'all ain't really a threat. That's just what they think. But the black dudes, black men, they know like, okay, if you ain't buck dancing for us, you're against us. So you're evil and you have to be extra generous and polite. That's why, that whole too nice bullshit doesn't, um, oof. So if you're a black man, oh, you got to be nice and polite. You can't be angry and all, rambunctious. That's literally where the concept of the dance man, where I use this demon when I'm do demon time, and where that came from that show. If you can go check out that video, uh where I did a review on that, and how this guy was pretty much like he was a representation of the anger of black men that most, if not all, black men know that they have to temper or control, otherwise your ass will get shot. If you do that in the presence of a cop, you try to do like any other regular white guy does, and he gets loud mouth with the cop, that cop will shoot you just because you're black. I've seen plenty of videos where white guys and white women too, they are cursing at the cops, throwing stuff at the cops, like I'm talking about straight up. Yeah, I don't see any videos like that of any black people doing that to any cops, and there not being any significant consequences at all. I haven't seen them. If you have some, share them, because I haven't seen any of them. Now, he touched on something, and I also got another clip from Professor Blacktruth where he also dives into that, where it's easy to unite a people against you. And remember the status. Remember the whole point of this. So the status, and you remember how I said the poor white people, which were the ones that were, to be honest, they were the ones committing most of the, if not all of, the lynchings. All of the atrocities we see against black people. Yeah, it was condoned by the elite. They used the things to allow it to happen, but the ones that were actually doing it are are the middle class, the lower class, the lower tier white people. They are the ones doing it. Because the elite, they don't acknowledge white trash. There's also a link in there about that. I was watching a video where a lady was talking about how elite white people, they don't fuck with poor white people like that. They call them white trash for a reason. Trailer park trash, that whole concept. Yeah, there's that classism in there. That's why one of the reasons why, when you think about lineage, and I know you guys gone through this too, when you're talking to somebody, and if they themselves don't have any accomplishments or acknowledgments or accolades, you know how when you talk about somebody and then they'll be like, oh, yeah, well, I know about that because, my dad has a boat, or my granddad has a boat, or this and that. And it's like, it's, I kind of find it cringe because, and white people do this a lot, where they talk about the accomplishments and whatnot of people they know. or their family. And you have to realize what's happening right there. It's because they themselves might not necessarily have any accomplishments or accolades worth recognizing, but realize that they're utilizing their lineage, their pedigree, the things at their disposal in a way to raise their value in your eyes or their status. Because if I were to say, "Oh, my dad graduated from Harvard," I'm using that for a reason. I'm using that to try to raise my status, my value, so that you might take whatever it is I say next as you might listen to me, or take anything that I say worth a damn. Even though I might have went to a community college, but oh, my dad went to Harvard and my mom went to Yale or some crap like that, right? They do it all the time, and it's because that's status. That's what they're trying to get. The Instagram famous people. It's all about the status. Most of them broke as a joke. They are not making money like that. They're doing it because of the status. They're chasing the status. Now, this next clip, Professor Blacktruth, he touches on that and how they're trying to unify them because, you know, the history of barbarism is white people. They have always warred, and there is the concept where some people they do try to talk about oh, war is just natural in society. And when you think about it, no, not really. It's natural in their culture, yes. But to be honest, war is not it was not is not I don't believe it's a normal part of society or our culture because prior to colonization and all that stuff, there was a lot of black people were all over the globe already, even in Europe, everywhere, sharing knowledge, teaching others. People would come to the first colleges made in on the continent of Africa. That's where Europeans would go to learn, to become civilized. And I always talk about people, but people like always talk about, England and all that stuff. And I'm just like, and then they try to relate current England to what England was before, civilization is what it is today. And I always have to remind people, like, you do realize that, um, and forgive my language, little one, you do realize they used to throw their shit out their windows and stuff. Like they didn't even have sewage systems. Like they were freaking barbarians. They were disgusting. The plague and all that stuff because they would literally be laying up with dead bodies in their houses and stuff. They didn't bury their dead. Like it was disgusting. And I'm glad that I watched Tariq's Hidden Colors. I'm having an issue with video with DVD number 3 and 5 for some reason. So I might have to hit somebody up about that because they're not playing for some reason. But he did touch on that, and at least one of the people he was interviewing did touch on that. And I'm like, yeah, white society was not civilized at all. They were not, and I was already aware of that. But like I said, people would just overlook it. Um, Hold on, let me get tend to the little one. Well, while I'm tending to the little one, let me go ahead and play the clip by Professor Blacktruth.
They want unity, but the only form of unity the white supremacy has ever been able to find is hating black people. They've never been able to rally behind anything else. They have failed to develop any other unifying principle, and it wasn't for lack of trying, though. They've tried religion, they tried royalty, they tried political philosophies, economic philosophy. The white supremacists cannot agree on anything because they come from a culture of war, deception, and aggression. And you don't get unity out of war, deception, and aggression. So make no mistake, just like
So this is where this is why I say that they use status, and also you couple this also with conflict. Like I said, you can couple all of these together. Um, but when it relates to status, they're using this to try to unify the underlings to be honest, one part is amusement and for conflict. Because remember lynchings, they used to treat it as spectacles um when they did that. But one thing all white people will say or will acknowledge is white people are above black people. No matter what they say, no matter like, oh, I don't see colors and we should all come together and all that stuff. But when they say you're considered black, what's the next thing comes up at that they think of or they go to? Oh, they think of poverty. They think of less than. Because that is what it is. So they all have been able to unify on this thing, and to be honest, this thing alone, because even when America was founded, they were all separated on religion. They were all separated on just about like Professor Blacktruth said, they were not unified on anything except racism. That's pretty much it. And the elite saw that as an opportunity. They said, essentially, because if you think about it, why didn't they commit a genocide and just wipe us all out? I mean, to one, I don't know, they wouldn't have been able to. Um, but why didn't they? Well, one, they needed our labor to build America. That's one. And then two, they saw an opportunity where it's like, hey, we can actually subjugate the lesser people because for some reason they like picking on them Negroes over there. So we can use this to our benefit. So let's demonize those Negroes, give these lesser white people a reason to go over there and pick at them, and then while they're picking at them, they're never acknowledging what we're doing behind the scenes. All the while they think that they've made it or they think that they have some type of power because they have this perceived status over black people. And that's why there is global white supremacy today. That's the one thing that they will agree on is white on top. So I hope that you're able to at least make sense of this, because if not, I might need to do a better job at articulating it. I will say that. Ah, the little ones here. Yeah, she's right next to me in my ear. Cough, cough, cough. But let me go tend to this one. But this has been the crossover, and I hope you got some from this. But remember, this is just information, and with this information, I expect you to take action. So
Don't let me down, man. If you let me down, I don't know what I'd do.
thanks for watching, and as always, hit the like button, share it, comment, all that. And till next time.
お前はもう死んでいる。